You can do this type of background on your pastel drawings, but you could also do this on your coloured pencil pieces as well, just to speed up the process of doing a background. If you want to see how I created this entire piece, including the tiger itself in real time, you can actually check out the link to my Patreon channel in the description below. If you don't know what pan pastels are, they're basically just a highly pigmented soft pastel that's been compressed into a pan. You apply them with soft tools, and that's SOFT, which come in a range of different shapes and sizes. I'm using a rounded edge knife tool because I find that the tools that have rounded edges tend to create smoother shapes in comparison to the ones with the pointed edges. I usually use bigger sponges for larger areas like backgrounds, but I'm using this small knife today because there are a lot of smaller shapes and different colours throughout the background. The reason why I like using bigger sponges where I can is because the small sponges like this one tend to wear away quickly because of how thin they are. Also, the pastel mat surface that I'm working on feels a little bit gritty as well, and it kind of sands away at the tool a bit, which contributes to it wearing away quicker. So if I'm doing a background that's not as detailed as this one, I tend to try and use the bigger sponges so that I can save the tools a little bit more. Make sure that you're applying your pastel very lightly. When you first add your pastel to your paper, the first stroke is going to be quite vibrant, and then the more strokes you do, the colour stops coming off of your tool. When that happens, go back into your pan and pick up more colour instead of trying to press harder to make more colour come off of your tool. Pressing hard will damage your sponges a lot quicker as well. Your first layer is going to look super patchy, and you're going to see a lot of paper showing through. But once you've added a few more layers, you'll notice how smoothly the pastel blends together, and it will start to create a really soft effect. With pan pastels, you can actually mix your colours in a few different ways. So you can mix it straight on the paper by layering your colours together, or you can pick up a little bit of each colour on your sponge from each pan before going onto your artwork. You can also mix your colours on a separate piece of printer paper before applying it to your artwork if you want to be a little bit more precise about the colour that you're mixing. Mixing colours is a huge benefit of working with pan pastels because you could potentially start out with a set of 5 basic colours, so red, yellow, blue, black and white, and you can mix your colours just like paints. The pans also last a really long time, so it's actually quite a cost-effective way to use pastels. The paper that I like using for pastels is the Clairefontaine pastel mat. So this paper and the Luxe Archival by Brush and Pencil are the only 2 papers that I would recommend for pastels. Pastel mat takes multiple layers of pastel, but it also allows for a super smooth result. Most papers that are labelled as pastel paper have quite a grainy texture, which you can usually see in the end result, and you can't add as many layers of pastel on a lot of those papers. I know that pastel mat isn't the cheapest option, but it's honestly worth the price because you won't get the same result on other papers. I also like using this same paper with coloured pencil, so you could easily do a background using the pan pastel, but do your main subject in coloured pencil if you wanted to speed up the process. And the reason why I love these out of focus backgrounds is because it helps give depth to your drawing and it draws attention to the main subject, which is in focus. I also try not to make my dark areas too dark in the background so that it keeps the higher contrast on the main subject. By saving your lightest lights and your darkest darks for the main subject, it will help bring even more attention to the main subject. In this background, I was trying to achieve an out of focus look where there are still subtle shapes of trees and bushes and leaves, but nothing is too defined. All of the edges of the colours and shapes are softly blended into the next colour, and I've also added some bright circular shapes that are almost white throughout the background to create some bright sunspots and make it look a little bit like a bokeh background. And you don't have to create a background with this much texture either. If you look at some of my other pieces, you'll see that I tend to stick with a more subtle background, which is usually 1 or 2 colours, just to give a soft effect around the main subject without adding as much detail as I did in this background. This real-time tutorial in the top left corner is a great example of how you can use pan pastels to create an entire piece of artwork. I also explain everything that you need to know about pan pastels in quite a lot of detail, so click on that and I'll see you over there.